Tutorial we're going to have a look at using the paint bucket tool in Adobe Photoshop. We're also going to have a look at a little bit of how color works for screen, for print, and also how to get those primary colors using RGB. So let's dive in. I do have this little project here called One Bucket JPEG, and again, if you open that with Photoshop, that is going to give us our starting image. And of course, I'm going to go through and go Window, Workspace, Reset Essentials. I'm going to get back to hopefully what you're going to see in your workspace. I'm going to zoom in on this again. Shortcut for zooming in: Control plus, Control minus, Command plus, Command minus if you are on a Mac, and spacebar for moving around, or you can use the Z for zoom tool, or you can hit Command or Control 0 and it's going to give you full screen. Whoa, it's right there. Alright, so a couple of things to have a quick look at with this. This is a color wheel, and if you are an artist and you've done painting before physically, you will know that your primary colors are red, yellow, and blue, and theoretically you can mix those to create any color that you want. Again, theory versus physics are two different things, but there you go. The other thing that we have a look at is that when we're dealing with screen, these are not our primary colors. In fact, our primary colors are R, red, G, green, and B for blue. And if you get in really close to a screen, you'll see that those are the three colors that make every single color that you see within a screen or an additive color gamut. So gamut is the range of colors. Without getting too far into the theory, print color, is basically running off how bright the page is and how bright the light is, because it's not additive, it's not pushing light out, and we are dealing with cyan, CMYK, so cyan, magenta, yellow, and key, which is black, because B's already been taken up with blue. So we do need to take that in mind when we are dealing with stuff. Check the theory on that, but let's look at how we're going to fill this sucker in. As usual, I always recommend going to image and image size. Just have a look how big this is. I'm going to set this to pixels, and you can see it's 550 by 550 pixels. It is not big. And in fact, if I hit Z for zoom, you can see we're getting that little pixelation thing pretty damn quickly. But that's okay for this. It is an exercise. It's not, I'm not putting up on screen or print or anything like that. All right, let's look at this sucker. Now, as a general, I like to work non-destructively, and if we look over our layers panel, we'll see we've got our background. It's got a little padlock on it to try to stop us working directly on it. You can still open that. If you double click on that and give it a name, or just hit OK, you'll note that that padlock disappears. So I'm going to go Command Z and undo that, and I'm going to go over to my paint bucket tool. So the shortcut for paint bucket tool is G. It shares it with the gradient tool. If you have looked at the gradient tool tutorial, I've spoken about this, but make sure you select the G tool. Again, Shift G will cycle through these. So Shift G, paint bucket, gradient, paint bucket, gradient, paint bucket, gradient. Alright, so let's have a look at the options panel for this. So there's our little bucket. It's set to foreground. There's an option for pattern. Leave it alone. It's garbage. Blend modes, let's leave that now. Opacity, leave it, leave it, leave it, leave it, leave it. Get to the end here. Alright, this is what we're looking for. Paint bucket, it's going to dump paint and things. There's a few options here. Anti-aliased, contiguous, and all layers. These are actually really important. So, for example, anti-aliased. What the hell is anti-aliased? Well, if you have anti-aliased on, it's basically, and in fact they've even got a little hover thing here, smooths edge transition. What the hell does that mean? Well, if we zoom in really close to this, let's find an edge, you'll actually see this isn't a black line per se. It's a black line, and then we've got some darker grey areas and lighter grey areas. And that's kind of what anti-alias does. It kind of just blurs the edges of the pixels, because every image in Photoshop or in a screen situation, or at least a digital screen situation, is made up of tiny little squares like a Lego land, and each of those squares is dedicated a color, and combine all those is going to give you your image. And to try things, make things look less like Minecraft or Lego World, they kind of create this little algorithm which creates these little semi-transparent areas, and so it makes it look a little bit smoother. So it's good for photos and stuff like that. So that's actually a really important thing. So I'm going to go back to my paint bucket tool, and I'm going to have anti-aliased off. Let's see what happens if I don't. So I'm going to turn anti-aliased off. I'm going to go to my color picker, either up the top right here or down the bottom here. Click on there and choose color. I'm going to go with something quite bright. I'm not really worried about the color at the moment because I'm going to undo it, and I'm going to click in there. So you can kind of see what's happening here. So anti-aliased is off, and if I zoom in, you can see it's basically going to stop as soon as it reaches a border, and it's not going to take into consideration the semi-transparent areas. So I'm going to undo that, Control Z. Let's back to Paint Bucket, G. I'm going to hit anti-aliased on this time and click back in there, and let's zoom in, and you can see it's kind of doing a much better job of filling in through these transparent areas. So by default it's on, so you should be good. There are some situations where we don't want anti-aliased, but for now that is good. I'm going to undo that. Boom. Alright, so anti-aliased on. Awesome. Contiguous. What the hell's that? Well, contiguous basically means that if you click in an area like this white area, it will stop when it reaches an enclosed border. So if I click on here and go, hey, cool, that's perfect, that's what I needed. However, if there was a gap in there, and I'm going to fake a gap in this one, I'm going to grab a little paint bucket here and I'm going to dig a little hole in the side here. I'm going to go back to my paint bucket, switch to red, and you can see it's now seeped out of that hole and it's going everywhere until it reaches a suitable border. So watch out for that. It's extremely useful if you need to fill in multiple areas of an image if they happen to be the same color. So, whatever that may be. So we want contiguous on. Awesome. Next one's all layers. So as I mentioned, I like to work non-destructively, which basically means if I'm working on this current layer and I'm filling it in, however I'm filling that in, and if I do a lot of work on it and later on I want to change it, it's going to be really difficult because everything is on one layer, which means I'm going to have to go in really deep to go and change certain aspects of that. However, non-destructive basically means you use things that you can go back and change later. So what I'm going to do now is create a brand new layer. Hit that little plus button. There it is, layer 1. You can rename it by double clicking on it if you want, but at this point we're only going to have one layer, so it's up to you, and make sure you have that selected. So leave the background alone, it's fine. And this is where all layers comes in. So we've got a paint bucket that's got anti-alias. It's going to be a nice curved edge, or blurry pixels, semi-transparent. It's going to stop when it reaches a border, and it's going to look at all layers. So if I click in primary, hey, it fills that in nicely. If you do not have all layers clicked on, it's just going to fill it up completely because it's going to ignore that background layer. So by hitting all layers, it's going to look at everything that's visible on your screen. So that's kind of what we want. A brand new layer. I'm going to hit Command Z, and I've got anti-alias, contiguous, and all layers on here. There's an option here for tolerance. We'll get into that a little bit later, but essentially that means is how much it's going to look at those borders before it crosses over. So the more tolerance it has, the more likely it's going to be to seep out, or less tolerance, the more it's going to be very specific to the color that you're clicking on. And that could even be, for example, this little shadow in here. So it's going to select a range until it considers that enough to stop. Alright, wow, sounds complicated. Alright, you're probably going, get to the point, how do we fill this sucker in? Alright, let's look at primary colors, and we're going to look at primary in screen mode. So to do this, hopefully we know that our primary colors are RGB, red, green, blue in screen mode. So I'm going to go down to this little foreground color pick here. We've got one here, but I do want to get to this one here, and I'm going to click on that and go to color picker. Awesome. So this allows us to cycle through, and we've got our hues here, and we've got our saturations, all the rest of it. But if we want to get absolute primary colors, what we want to actually look at for RGB is down the bottom here. There's a few different color modes: HSB, hue, saturation, and blackness, and CMYK, which is print. So these are going to give our values. RGB works in a value of 0 to 255. What does that mean? Okay, if I go full 255 on red, it's going to give me the perfect red, as long as if green is 0 and blue is 0 as well. So that's actually a primary color. It's full saturation, full red color according to the way it is. So I'm going to go 255, hit OK, and dump it into my primary color. Nice. Now I think you can actually, if you go to, no, I'm going to leave it. Let's click on that again. Let's change that red to 0, and here's an interest, and then green to 255, and that's going to give it a perfect green. And we can, whoops, sorry, don't hit that color picker while you're doing a rookie mistake. So I want 0 on red, 0 on blue, and 255 on green, and that's going to give me my next primary color. And then let's click on that again, and 0 and 255 gives me my perfect blue. Hooray! Alright, so you can kind of see what's going on over this color picker here as well. Awesome, we got our primary colors. I'm not going to go through a whole lot with you guys with this, but just going to show you how you can choose and get close to choosing your perfect colors. In all honesty, I don't use this hell of a lot. If you're going into serious print stuff, then you can get spot colors and stuff down the bottom here. But a couple of things to look at. Watch out for this little dude here. There's a little exclamation mark here, and if you actually hover over that, it says warning, out of gamut for printing. Now, print colors, there's going to be a lot less print colors than screen colors. So because screens are pushing out light versus print, which is relying on light source and the color of the paper and all that color stuff, it's going to look a lot duller. So you can actually click on that, and it's going to give you close to what it can give you in print color. So that's all well and good, but honestly, we really do want to make sure that we're working on a screen. We want to make it screen color. So 255, if you can remember that, 0 for the others, 0 for the others, and that will give you perfect blue, perfect green, perfect red. Now here's another interesting one. If you have 0 for all colors, you get perfect black. Okay, well, not really a color for us at the moment. If you've got full saturation, sorry, I shouldn't say word saturation, 255 red, 255 green, and 255 blue, you get pure white. So kind of think of like light going through a prism. White light contains all the colors that you actually see, and that's going to give us perfect white. So all the colors, in this case only red, green, blue, are going to give us perfect white. So it's a good one to be aware of. Sometimes it's good to amaze your clients and stuff with this kind of stuff. But let's look at getting our secondary colors. And our secondary colors are simply the colors directly in between the two primary colors. So for example, red and green, or green and blue, or blue and red, depending on that. So over here I can go, alright, I want to go full red, full green, and 0 blue, and that's going to give me this yellow, and I can dump that into my secondary. Cool. So the same thing applies if you were going to do it for the other ones. I'm not going to do it yourself. Change green 255, blue 255, figure it out. But let's have a look at the tertiary colors. The tertiary colors are now the halfway between the primary and the secondary. So primaries are red. I want to go primary a little bit across towards the green, but not fully across to the green that we get the secondary halfway. So essentially what I'm going to go to green is I'm going to go, right, I don't want to get secondary, I want tertiary, so I'm going to go a little bit further away from it. So I'm going to go half of 255. I don't know how good your maths is these days, but what are we looking at? 125 plus half of 25, which is another 12.5, so 137.5. So you go 137 or 138. I think my maths is okay on that. I'm going to have to Google that. And that is going to give us our tertiary, which is going to be like an orangey color. So it's a nice little exercise just to make yourself aware of how the colors work for red, green, blue, and also they are slightly different to print, which is CMYK. So have a go at doing that. It also gets used to using the bucket tool and a little bit about what anti-alias is. Alright, we'll catch you on the next one.